Okay, so we are recording. So if you could pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this time of collaboration and cooperation with each other. Let us learn from each other. Please be with these candidates as they continue through their journey in their master's program. Grant them the confidence tonight as they present their information that will carry them through the rest of their courses. Thank you for the opportunity to work with these folks, and I appreciate everything that you give us on a daily basis and that you do for us. Thank you for all the blessings you've bestowed upon us. In your name we pray. Thank you. Amen. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. I can just call one at a time, or I can have you volunteer. Is there anybody that would like to go first? All right. Ding, 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 ding. Shayla, I'm going to have you go first. So if you would, and I would say, these don't have to be really long or drawn out. As long as you follow that and you kind of present everything, you'll get through it. And then if we have questions, I would love all of us as colleagues to ask questions if we want to at the end of the presentation, to give suggestions or comments. And then I will be, I've actually got the rubrics here. I'll be filling those out. And then I will actually send you a copy of the rubric if I have any comments or anything like that. Okay. So Shayla, let's start with you. Why don't you unmute? The rest of you can mute if you want to during the presentation. And let's see if you can share your screen. Want to make sure you can do that whenever you're ready.
Sharing is not turned on.
Okay. Oh, there we go. I guess it asked me to allow it, so I did. I thought I
Okay.
clicked that, but I guess I didn't. I'm going to shut a door here and I'll be right back.
All right. How's that working, guys?
That looks great.
Okay. So to start with, the course that I chose was beginning Google Sheets. And I am in general switching from a literature focus to a literacy focus in my middle school English classroom. And I just needed some practical skills. Nobody at my district is even very versed in Google Sheets. And without the knowledge and I just felt like it was a great place to learn to data track. So that's why I chose that, even though my emphasis is the literacy emphasis. And as far as the course itself, it was divided into 4 parts. And it was very like ground level. It was perfect for me that where I didn't have any skills. And it just even began with talking some of the terminology in part one. In part two, it went on to talking about how to organize and filter data. Then it was formulas and functions. And finally, the fourth part was using add-ons and other uses for Google Sheets. It was self-paced and video. For parts one and two and three, we had practice Google Sheets that I've linked here, but they're not interesting. They were just kind of sandbox playtime. And then also after each part, there was a 2 to 3 page reflection paper that's linked with the final project for the course itself being um, a Google Sheet with different tabs that we had to do some of the different, add in, learn how to alphabetize or conditional format something, some of the things that had happened as part of the learning. And since I took this one course for the 3 credit hours, I got the opportunity to create 2 final projects. And the first final project that I chose to create was a 3 lesson writing unit that I called Pixels to Paragraphs. And within that unit, I created the unit itself in Google Docs just so I could take advantage of the tab function. But I altered a pixel art spreadsheet from Eric Kurtz from math to an ELA focus and using that concept as a way to write a paragraph. And then eventually we would take and build the vocabulary with that. And the idea is to run then and create an AI prompt. So kind of incorporating some AI from start to finish throughout the course of those 3 lessons. To incorporate the Google Sheets, I modified the one spreadsheet from Eric Kurtz, and then I built a student-facing vocabulary database that we would all work in together. And I practiced the conditional formatting so that whenever they would choose um, whatever part of speech it would be, it would color code. For some reason, it's not doing that as I screen share, but here it is. That way they can also have some visual clues as to the part of speech. And further then, I had a spreadsheet and I did all the graphic organizers and things, but with the focus on the Google Sheets, I also did a student-facing rubric where they could self-assess and did some conventional formatting with that so that whatever score they chose would be reflected in the different colors. So if they felt like they had a 4, it would be blue. And so on and so forth. So kind of put things into play, created a teacher participation tracker slash checklist where there was a running ability to check off things. And if something is missing, then it would turn red. Sorry, getting everything to show here. The computer's going very, very slow. I mean, maybe shrink it here. There it is. So if it was, they were missing one, it would turn red. And so that way the teacher could tell at a glance if an assignment was missing. And then finally a rubric that the teacher could use to grade everything. And that also had the conditional formatting for the color, and then it would total itself. And so that was my first um, project to show my Google Sheets knowledge. And then the second one was I needed to curate resources to show what I had learned with Google Sheets. And so I used Google Sites and I called it a teacher time-saving Google Sheets starter kit and went through and created different pages from ready to go templates. Each page had a few strategies that would have a drop-down menu on different ways you could use them in the classroom. Student engagement, so linking some ready-to-go templates as well as ideas where you could just go right into the classroom and use those Google Sheets. Some of the well-known names, Alice Keeler, Casey Bell, Eric Kurtz, with their blogs and just all their tip sheets and how to use those in the classroom. And then with obviously being a Google product, just some of the Google to Google integrations, as well as strategies for using those in the classroom. I further linked the unit that I just showed you, the writing unit, and then ended with the reflection of learning that was part of the requirements. So the course and then the 2 final projects kind of were my culmination of everything I had put together with that. So then going back to my emphasis, I felt like several of the outcomes, there were several strong possibilities, but overall for the writing unit, I chose the self-directed professional innovation just because there was a gap and I was filling the gap as well as problem solving. And then dynamic learning leadership, because one of my favorite things is we don't have official PLCs at my school. We're just too little. But I got to meet with a group of teachers and present these and show them some of the things that Google Sheets could do. And so it was very informal this summer, but it was very fun because some of those teachers like don't even want to check their email. They don't like tech at all. And so showing them some of the possibilities that even I, as a very Google Sheets newbie, could do with the conditional formatting, the linking to Google Forms. We had a lot of fun doing that. It was very important. So for me, the application, you've got 2 initial places because I can use the pixels to paragraph unit right away. And then that professional learning committee, we're just kind of keeping it informal and having fun chatting on the side. But then the ongoing is that ability to apply those practical skills and data track within my classroom and kind of in the paper trail and the clipboard of all the forms, which I think is going to have long-term benefits because sharing with stakeholders, sharing with parents, all of those digitized things will take a while to build. So it's certainly not a one and done. And that's why I like this foundational piece to be able to continue. Um, and that's kind of what I talked about as well as in my um, in my reflection that what I chose helped me gain some beginning knowledge, but it's just going to continue to expand. It's been a lot of fun to look at other Google Sheets and get ideas on what I could do, systems from even bathroom tracking, formative assessment tracking, making that data visual. Already use Google Forms a lot. Well, now the next step is to take that sheet and use to the conditional formatting. So just appreciated the ability to take that to the next step and that it's not, again, there's no end in sight for what it can do. It can just keep going and going and going for me. Um, so that was kind of my contract. And then the professional portfolio, the different pieces of that. I have my, about me and my photo, and then the different pages. Right now, I've just mostly linked what I shared, the writing unit and the teacher toolkit Google site. Um, I don't have, there's pieces of all of them that link, but I'm looking forward to continuing to build that as I take more courses. And so some of them I don't have a lot yet, but that is to come. On the professional digital footprint, I never did get a certificate, or excuse me, on the badges and certificates. Uh, there we go. So I linked the rubrics that he graded. The Magic School was kind of my own side quest, so I just added them there. So if I get certificates or badges, I can add them, but I did not have anything from the course itself other than the rubrics. Um, and then my professional digital footprint is my blog. It is linked here. It's going to come up blocked. My district blocks it. Um, it'll say it's immature. So I did open up this window so you can see where I have written the entries. It just blocks the entire visual. So I always have to check it on my phone to make sure it went through. So that's kind of how I've worked around that. Um, and then the professional learning networks, National Council for Teachers of English and CTE was linked here. And then the professional standards, I use the International Literacy Association, their standards, the ILA standards. And that was kind of neat. And for me, I'm going to have a student teacher this fall. So I was able to even print out the ILA standards to share with them because, I felt like a big kind of, here we know we have professional standards of conduct, but I had never printed them out and really looked at them before. So I wanted to give her a piece that I felt like I had been missing. Um, and then finally, the resources page. I had my original artifacts and then with literacy, some science of reading support materials, some podcasts that I have enjoyed. I got to listen to the Melissa and Lori and the two Shake Up Learning ones this summer. And Mars Patel was one that I put in front of my kids last spring and they loved it. Highly recommend that to anybody in those upper grade levels. That it was really fun. They had a great time with it. And then some other ed tech sites in general that I've come across this summer or have enjoyed using before. And that would be the final page of my portfolio. So, as far as I know, I think that was all the talking points. Is there anything else I need to address?
I think you did a great job. Awesome.
Well,
I
thank you.
just, one of the well, I didn't want to surprise you. One of the comments I wrote that I was so impressed and so proud of you because I think you took the learning that you participated in and you've done it in a really professional way. And I think that anybody that looks at your portfolio would just be like, wow, look at the learning that's occurred here. Um, and it gives me some ideas. I'm thinking like later on as we go through our courses, maybe I'll have you do a narrative at the top of each of those outcome pages, and the things that you've learned, but kind of a summary. So that may be something we do later on, but and like I said earlier, there will be some of those outcomes that you may not have addressed yet, this first time. So you did an excellent job.
Well, thank you.
Comments from your colleagues? Anybody with questions or comments? Carly?
Yeah, that was amazing. I am so impressed. I just have to warn everyone, mine does not look like that. Um, but
Carly, that's called poisoning the well. That's a
right? I'm
couple
like, oh
answers. We
no.
would do
No,
that.
but I thought it was really neat how you created things that you're using to share with other teachers. I think that's really impressive. I wanted to hear kind of what the other teachers' feedback was that you met with this summer. I'm sure they were very impressed, but I just kind of wanted to hear what they maybe like learned from it or what they gained to use in their classroom as well.
Well, for fun, Carly, my daughter, she's in elementary ed at Kansas Wesleyan in Salina, and her quote is, "Mom, you're so extra."
No, no, no. I thought you did a great job. Not extra at all.
So I
You're a
mean
good role model.
that's the 20-year-old comment, but no, actually my colleagues they really I got really good feedback and they were all planning on using it and they said, "Well, if you use it, can I use it?" I said, "That's the whole intention." Absolutely. So it made me feel good that they felt like it was serviceable for use in their classroom. So
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so excited that you got the chance to share it with teachers in your district. Not everyone gets a chance to do that. And that's one of the things I really like to push is, get in that PD system and you be the presenter. So that's awesome. Very good.
well,
So
thank
excellent
you.
job, Shayla. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, is there anybody that would like to go next, or do you want me to just to assign someone? Look at the examples we're going to have next round, right? The next cohort, they're going to be like, do you have an example of this? Like, sure. Where you guys are the pioneers. You just kind of had to struggle through. Let's see, Gloria, you want to go next?
Sure. I am
Okay.
so nervous right now.
Oh, you're going to do great.
So,
Please don't be nervous around us. Like I said, this is a stepping stone. I want this is good feedback for all of us to kind of see where everything took us, what you could do with it, and it gives all of us ideas for the next round, right? So you might think, oh, I really liked, what Sheila did, or I really liked what Kaylee did, or Carly, and or Gloria, and I'm going to do that next time. So it gives us ideas too. So it's all sharing. It's all, so please, I know it's easier said than done, but don't be nervous. Just talk us through and you just tell us what you learned and just be proud of it. So
okay, let's go ahead and start. I'm going to start
okay,
with B.
let's see if you can share. If you can't, I may have to give you permission, but I think you're okay. Yep.
Okay. So, first things
Just a
first,
minute,
my emphasis.
just a minute, Gloria. It's not showing up yet. Are you guys seeing? Oh, there we go. It just popped up. So, okay, we're good now.
Okay. So, first things first, my name is Gloria Johnson. My emphasis is STEAM. Um, I love technology, so I chose technology as my first part of STEAM. So STEAM stands for science, technology, um, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So I went ahead and started with the letter T, yours technology, and I took four classes. I took 3 Microsoft classes, which is introducing STEM in the digital classroom, integrating real-world connections with STEM, coding esports in the classroom. And then the third Microsoft class was implementing artificial intelligence. I also took using AI to support teaching and learning in the math classroom, which was a Orion Trek class. I love the Orion Trek, so hopefully my next ones I'm going to be doing are Orion Tech Treks classes. So the first 3 were just doing a bunch of reading and then taking a quiz. So I have quite a bit of badges and things to go along with that. So I'm going to go ahead and move over to that just to show off those badges and get those through. So for each lesson, there was a badge. So there's quite a bit here. The first ones are from the first class. And there was a quiz at the end. That's why it says module assessment passed. But I have my certificate from the first class. I'm still waiting on the other 2 to be sent to me. So those are those. So let's come back to this. So I got my 45 hours of professional learning with those 4 classes. They focused on STEM, coding, esports, artificial intelligence, and technology integration. So a lot of them focused on AI and then implementing AI. So I learned quite a bit about just AI integration and bias and privacy and things of that nature. So my first major learning activity focused on STEM in the digital classroom and ways to make technologies part of a meaningful instruction. My second focused on the real-world connections through STEM, coding, and esports. The third focused on implementing artificial intelligence in the educational setting. And the fourth specifically was on using AI to support teaching. So that's what I learned in those classes. So my learning outcomes for number 1, I have to refer back to them. The self-directed professional innovations. So they are self-directed because it's all just self-paced classes. The second one was dynamic learning and leadership. So I learned quite a bit about how to share these sources with my fellow peers in my classrooms. So I can't wait to do that because I am an online teacher. So I do a lot of sharing and online and things like that. So I have one other teacher to talk to about this. And while I was at work today, I was like, this is what I did in this class today. I really want to put this in there. And they're like, whoa, let's hold off on that because our district is just starting on the AI journey. They just sent out their AI things like standards for students and for teachers last year. So I was just like, I really want to jump into this. I want to teach students on how to do that, which is one of the final projects that I did in the tech class. I'm just going to go ahead and open that. This is a lesson that I created for this class. It's basically just teaching students how to, once it loads here, basically teaching students how to verify that AI information is correct, and doing work and then use AI to verify the work that they've completed. So once it lets me scroll here. So the lesson begins with AI. So saying, is AI trustworthy? Then we follow it with an introduction for limitations of artificial intelligence. The students will take people, answer them on their own, and then they'll take and use AI to solve it. And then they're saying, okay, what are the differences here? Here's my work, here's AI's work. Did they make a mistake? Did I make a mistake? And then they have to use critical thinking skills to actually identify, okay, which one's right, which one's wrong, and then verify the information. So at the end, there will be an exit ticket, and I'll use a jigsaw technique. A jigsaw is a strategy where it's usually a reading strategy where you take an article and you split it up into 4 pieces and then have those people work together and then they all spread apart and then go to the other groups. But I used it here by saying, okay, this is my group, this is what we did in our group. I'm going to go ahead and share with other groups saying this is the mistakes that I saw, so then they can have a good understanding of how AI works. Okay, so I'm going to move on to my application here. So in this, I just talked about how all of the different things that I've learned. I learned about technology integration, artificial intelligence, 21st century design. I learned several AI tools, which was Microsoft Copilot, which is the Microsoft AI. Claude is another AI software. Google Gemini, just several different types of AI tools. The Conmigo is the Khan Academy AI, which is more of a tutor for students. It's super fascinating. Uh, just because in math, because I'm a math and science teacher, students always are either nervous to ask for help, but this is just a way that they can get help without, like as a tutor, like not having to pay for having a tutor and things like that. So I found that very useful in my, yes. Okay. Um, in my analysis of outcomes, um, I felt that what I've learned is really going to increase the amount of engagement that I have in my classes because students are always very interested in what's happening in the technology world or the new stuff that's happening. So incorporating this, even if it's just a tutor or something to that effect, kids are like, yes, this is going to be fun. Be interested in that. So in reflection, I talked about the learning outcomes for how these classes, uh, and what you saw that was a Grammarly, just to check grammar pop up. Sorry about that. So outcome 1, outcome 2, outcome 4, just like what I talked about above, and then how it relates to my personal goal. So I think I've covered all of that. I have my talking pieces here. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to my portfolio. So I have my home and my introduction to loads. And then I put a little teaching philosophy because when I first started this, I accidentally did the not the master's template. I did the undergrad template. So I just added that as I had made that. I added in some of my evidence here for my star forms from the 3 Microsoft classes. And I have my evidence linked here. I wasn't sure what went here, but it was just the evidence is the star form. Do you want me to open that?
No, that's
Okay.
okay. I think you've told us about it. And I would say on your evidence links and your evidence might just be explaining it, where the link is just the link
Okay.
to your evidence. Yeah. So you might just put a little bit there on, why this is evidence for this learning. So,
Oh, okay. I'll
yeah.
fix that. And then so that's all I put for that.
Mhm.
I also included my self-directed professional innovation for my final project from my Orion Trek class.
Mhm.
So my reflective capability, I know that's just another one there. Here's my professional digital footprint for my blog.
Mhm.
Just gotta load. And then in my um, introduction to educational research, I put that in my blog. So I've found had a lot of fun with that. Let me come back to this because it's going to take a while to load. I already talked about my badges and certificates, my professional standards. I use the STEAM Educator Competence Framework, and there's two of them, so I added both of those, and then I talked about them. And then my professional networks is Edutopia. And if you have not gone on Edutopia, thank you, Dr. Fry, for um, recommending us looking at those different networks. There's so much different information on there that I recommend that you guys look at. And then my resources, I just have resources for teachers, and then I added some of my AI resources that I found, like the AI tools and resources from my Orion Trek class, the Mate code. So in my classes, I also did a bunch of coding. So Mate code is a platform for coding. So it's Visual Studio, and say is the web-based version of the HTML for Visual Studio. And I feel like I am finished at this point. Sorry, I say a lot in my talking. Um, that's one
I
of
think you
my
did
things I
great.
need to
I
work
think you did great. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Um, AI is so fascinating, and I know I I I was interested when you said you really wanted to move forward, and you wanted to tell them about all the AI, and they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't think that the AI
on.
acceptable use policies have caught up yet. And we do have one, if on our syllabi for the class, our syllabus for class, the MNU has their acceptable use policy, but I know they were very careful about us using anything with AI until they had that in place. So I think a lot of districts are still struggling
Mm-hmm.
with we accept, what do we not accept, and so that is kind of an issue. But I just love the forward thinking that you've had getting into AI and doing all that because the students are there, right? And they're into it. So we kind of need to catch
Mm-hmm.
up and
Mm-hmm.
kind of get a handle on it and help them use it properly. So the fact that you're taking these courses that kind of um, initiate you into that acceptable use and proper use is just amazing and very admirable. So that's great. And I love the sheet you made for the students, testing we used to do those for research materials. When they'd go to the media center to research something, we'd say, how do you tell it's a good source? How do you get permission to use this? And now we're in this AI conundrum with we have to think about, and the assignment that you talked about, where they compare, where they have to look at what AI gave them and then do their own research and think about how it differs. That's a very valuable because AI is not necessarily the end all be all, and I think they need to be very critical about their thinking process when using it. So that's really good. You did a great job. So
Thank you.
yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed that work too and all that information. So that's awesome. So another great example, see, that we're going to have for future classes. You guys are setting the bar high. So, there was something else I was going to say, but I think I wrote it down, so I'll send it to you later. Something, it was, something about something you did really well. So, okay. Okay, Carly, you next.
Yes, I will go next.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
And
Okay.
have you gotten all of your certificates, badges, anything?
Yes, I just had one certificate from
Okay,
my class. So that's what
perfect.
I
And if
got.
they get that badge perfected, it was kind of an afterthought for MNU, but I thought,
Okay.
they've got these portfolios. We might
Uh-huh.
need these badges. So you may get something like that later. All of you might. So
Okay, let's see. Are you able to see mine? Good. Okay. Okay, well, let's dive right in. So I'm going to start with the learning log and evidence. So this class, especially compared to the last two that we kind of heard, those were a little bit more concrete of concepts. So with this class, a lot of it was more about theory and perspective and kind of how to change your classroom and student behavior with almost more of like with your thinking, with your theory, with how the environment that you create. And so the class that I took was supporting challenging students, creating loving and inclusive classrooms. And it was really just assignments, over the course of 4 different modules. And like I said, a lot of it was just theory. So there wasn't a lot of necessarily application to that. It's more of something you just have to apply, kind of within your own mind and classroom, that sort of thing. But I did get a certificate at the end of the class, and then I have linked all my assignments that I did complete during the class. It was really neat because we actually got to watch a lot of movies and videos, quite a few TED Talks. We got to hear from Rita. Is it Rita Pearson, I believe is her name? Always love to hear what she has to say. That's super great. So, based on those things, we wrote kind of key points and then also takeaways that we found from that video or movie. And then we also read a text that went along with the concepts we learned from the class. And so that was from Behaving to Belonging, the inclusive art of supporting students who challenge us. So that it honestly, it was kind of a challenging text because it's hard to kind of look in the mirror and say, maybe it's time for a perspective change. But it was good to read through all of the different examples and kind of the perspective that they take again. And again, it was the assignments were more kind of reflective, talking about key points from the text. So again, I just have the assignments linked here to my portfolio. And I did complete 45 hours within the class. I just didn't kind of split it up. It was just all within the movies and the text. And then part 3 was the application to professional practice. One of the top things that I found that I would like to implement into my school is actually, it's more than just my classroom. It's creating a student success plan. We do have something similar to that on within our SIT and PLC team and that sort of thing. But it's really about discovering student strengths. They're listing out challenges that they're having and then really diving in together to find the best solutions. It's a better way to look at behavior as opposed to, to create something successful rather than looking at it kind of negatively. It helps everyone be a part of the team. And sit down and look at, what the deal is. So, and then beyond that main application, I also just kind of noticed that, there's always that opportunity to increase relationship. That's super, super important, especially, as educators, that's a huge thing, especially in the special education room, because there can be those big behaviors. You want to know that you're that person who can step in and already have that relationship with the student. So just, kind of increasing my relationships with students, finding out exactly what makes them tick, what they enjoy, all the things. Um, and then another thing is, this is huge. It was that behavior is communication. While I probably knew that at some point, it was good to hear it and really be able to, um, kind of set that into my mind, if that makes sense. It's understanding the reason behind the behavior, what the student actually needs, what they're trying to communicate to me. Um, rather than just trying to do a quick fix or trying to figure out, okay, how can I stop the behavior in the moment, that sort of thing. It's just changing the way we view behavior. And then the last thing for that part was promoting gratitude. So there were lots of different subjects we kind of broached, but this one really stuck out to me because there's a huge link between gratitude, happiness, kindness. Those all kind of tie together. And so when if I'm able to, for instance, write down 3 things every day on my board that I'm grateful for from that day, that's just a good example to, not only students, but also my colleagues, just to kind of change the environment and the climate of my school. So that's kind of some applications I found from this class. And then for section 4, influence and outcomes, again, that student success plan was huge to me. Um, I think it like I had said before, it brings every person on the team together and kind of it makes it where everybody has a job. So it's no longer just the student needs to fix this. It's really a team effort. And how are we going to help this student along? Not just, well, they need to kind of get it together, fix that behavior, right? And then next was again that increased relationship building. This would be hopefully creating more empathy and intentionality with the student. Hopefully, trying to understand them more can help with that behavior as well. And then the part that we talked about was behaviors, communication. Again, understanding their experiences, their motivation, and their needs rather than just viewing, oh, the child's doing that again, kind of that frustration. It's being a little bit more curious about what is going on behind the scenes there. And that kind of creates more of a basis for a long-term help or fix, that sort of thing, rather than that quick fix. There was also the promoting gratitude. So this creates a more gracious and happy environment. And it also can encourage others to find joy in each day and share it. It's kind of that like share a smile and it spreads, that sort of thing. It just helps the entire culture of the school, not even just my classroom. That's something that can carry on. And then part 5 was my reflection. So my professional and personal goal was kind of tied together in this. It was working to shift my mindset on student behavior. And the most impactful point made through this text was that behaviors communication. I will say it probably 100 more times. Sorry, guys. That is just totally the main thing that they really drilled home. So again, there's no quick fixes. Change takes time, commitment, and consistency um, with behavior. With those student success plans, this just creates a creative, individualized, and collaborative approach for the support of the student. And this is for students too, I should say, not just in SPED. So the SIT process, as many of you probably know, it's interventions for general education students. So this is a plan that you can create, whether they have, an individualized plan separately or not. So I thought that was cool. And then I felt like this course really, I didn't realize we could do more than one program outcome. So I really focused on program outcome 2, which is dynamic learning leadership. So cultivating professional and personal resilience strategies to navigate and lead within ever-changing educational ecosystems, emerging technologies, and evolving learner needs. So I really felt like the main points of that were the resilience strategies, both for myself, because it's not easy to deal with those behaviors, right? And then also teaching strategies of resilience to my students, just to help with SEL as a whole, social emotional learning as a whole. And then navigating and leading within this area. Once I kind of change my mindset, once I learn more about behavior and social emotional learning, as I continue to do that, I'm able to lead my colleagues more and kind of the evolving learner needs. We know that the needs keep on growing, keep on changing. And so that's kind of what the outcome that I kind of felt like was most accurate for this one. And then one other aspect that I reflected on was the importance of self-care. This was talked about quite a bit. It was actually almost a whole module that we went over because, especially with behavior and teaching, bringing your best self to school is the way to be the most effective and just show, the best example you can to your students. So Overall, this course really challenged me to look at and respond to challenging behavior with, again, curiosity and empathy. And then that's it for my learning contract. Let's see if I can move over to my portfolio. Everyone see that okay still? Okay. All right. So this is my portfolio. And down here is that professional picture and just a little bit more about me. Let's see if I can move this at all. So it's just a little bit, about what I try to do as a teacher, as an educator, that sort of thing. And then again, I thought it had to kind of be one learning outcome. So I just put it under this. I can change that later. But so I just listed the course that I did. And then since it was a lot of theory, we didn't have like a final project or anything like that. I just kind of explained what the course was, and then kind of evidence was more like my reflection and what I could kind of do with that. But then under artifacts, I listed every assignment that we did just to kind of, hopefully give you guys the idea of like, okay, here's what video we watched. And then you can click to see what the key points were from it, my response, how I kind of want to implement that. And then down at the bottom here, was the text that we read. And each chapter we wrote our key takeaways, our response, that sort of thing. So those are all here. I can give you an example. It's just a document of kind of, the top 5 things from this chapter, what I felt like was the most important, and kind of reflecting on that. And then moving to see the professional digital footprint. So I do have my blog linked here. This just contains all the posts that we have done so far from the class. And then we've got my portfolio. It looks very similar. My portfolio from the EEU program for my, that was my bachelor's. So I have both of those linked. And then moving to the badges and certificates. Again, the only thing I received from the class was a certificate, so that is linked here. I'll just add those as I keep going. Professional standards. So for SEL, the main framework that we utilize is the CASTLE framework, and this consists of 5 different sections of the wheel, amongst other things like communities, families, schools, classrooms. There's a lot more to it, and it does cover, very, very early stages in life all the way up through school. So it's really neat. It talks about self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and then responsible decision making. This site has a lot of cool things for anyone learning about social emotional learning standards. And then professional networks. I looked at both EdWeb and Edutopia, and I felt like they all had, or they both really had fantastic ideas for educators, but also the collaboration and networking. I thought that was great because I think that like within your school, within your bubble, you kind of fall into routines and patterns. And typically when I go ask my coworker, we're doing the same thing, right? So to get ideas, it's going to take more than just, my little bubble. So I really liked the networking aspect, and even just leaving questions on there. Because I mean, even as year 4 educator, there is so much still for me to learn. So I really liked both of those websites for that. And then my last thing is my resources. And so I split it up into resources for educators, resources for students, and continuing education. I will say that the resources for students, they're obviously educator led, but they just have a lot more on there that's you can kind of get on there and let students kind of take over, or let them look through it, that sort of thing. And then let's see. I even added Ignite and Inspire because that's where my course came from. Just some different things on here to look through that I found valuable, things that I even use right now in my classroom, and then things we've done in our courses so far. So I think that's all I've got.
Oh, that's great. And thank you for that synopsis. It's interesting, in the undergrad classes and even the graduate classes, we talk a lot about UDL and how when you use those UDL strategies, it applies to the general classroom, general population. And so you even mentioned that. That's really, really important. I would say on your evidence, you said something about your evidence. You didn't really know what to write there. Carly, I just add a little bit there on um, how you would apply that learning in your classroom. I know you said it didn't have a lot of application, but you mentioned several things that you would do or change because of that. So I would just include that on there.
On, are you talking about on the portfolio
On the
part where it's
portfolio, yes.
the all the way on the side, the
On the
evidence on that?
evidence, yes,
Okay,
yes. So
sure.
you've got your
Yeah.
links there, but I think the evidence, it'd be good to have a couple statements on how, not just what you learned, but how that will impact, what you're going
Okay.
to change in your classroom. Like you said, looking in a mirror, how does
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
change what you're
Do you,
doing? So
okay, wait, just to clarify, are you talking about the artifacts at the bottom to
you've
write?
got your artifacts. I think you've got
Yeah.
your artifacts there, but up above,
Okay.
where it talks about evidence,
Yes.
talking about what you learned in that course that causes your change when
Okay,
you think of
perfect.
the change.
Extending
Yeah.
it a little bit more. Yep.
Yes, just a couple
Perfect.
statements. Yeah, but I
Okay.
good job. Yeah, I know it's really hard when you get so heavy in theory. It's hard to think about how that applies, but the learning that took place there is just phenomenal. The things you
Okay.
come across and learned. And I love your sayings, the behaviors, communication, look at strengths and solutions, promoting gratitude, self-care, all those very, very important key terms. So that's great.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Okay, Kaylee, ready?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, before we go though, anybody else have any comments for Carly? I'm sorry. Or questions or comments or okay. All right. I think we're ready for Kaylee.
Oh, oh, it looks like I don't know how to share my screen.
Do you see it now? Just at the bottom, the green share.
This one that says share with the arrow in it.
Uh-huh.
Do I have
And
to
then you'll
click?
have to select which item you're wanting to share.
Oh, oh, look at this. I need to. Please hold for technical difficulties. Okay, can you guys see it?
And I was on mute the whole time. I apologize. I'm sitting there going, "Do you see this? Do you see this?" And I'm on look down and I go, "I'm on mute." So I wasn't
Oh,
very helpful either.
that's
I'm sorry. Okay.
okay. I was starting to think maybe I should have done technology instead.
Great.
Could have learned something. Okay. Um, I am getting my emphasis in social emotional as well, and I actually was in the same course as Carly. I also took the supporting challenging students, creating loving and inclusive classrooms. Um, so just a little bit about me before I dive into all this. I'm in my second year or starting my second year teaching. So I found a lot of this stuff also very insightful because my first year I had a lot of struggles with challenging behaviors. So when I saw this, I was like, oh my goodness, this is perfect. Um, I got my degree originally in elementary, and I'm currently in a middle school teaching science. So this past year was like a whirlwind of learning new things, and this course I feel like really just gave me a lot of insightful things to take in for this next year. So it was split up a lot of like, here's the chapters from the book, from behaving to belonging, and then what was your takeaways from it? What did you want to implement into class? But then also with the TED Talks and the movies. So I kind of just split up my evidence of learning into two sections. I just put all of my like takeaways from the chapters in here. I split it up by chapter and then just kind of copied what I had put during the course. And then this is the same with my videos. I just kind of added what the video was, what I enjoyed from it, what I want to remember from it, and what I would like to add into my classroom and a daily kind of procedure. And then my final assessment was just kind of what are all the things that really stood out to me and what I would like to take forward moving on. Um, so my application, am I missing a piece in here? Oh no, sorry. My application, there were lots of things that really kind of stood out to me that I wanted to apply. And I work in a daycare during the summer. It's like connected through the church that I go to. So it's very nice working there. And I try to practice some of these strategies that I was learning while reading this book in that daycare because it mentioned like trying to practice these things in low stress situations. So then when you get to those high stress situations, it's more of a second nature than something you have to really think about. So one of those things was the power of the pause. Really kind of just when something happens, taking a moment to make sure you're reacting from a place of actual logic instead of a place from emotion. And I think that was huge. I think last year too, kind of with like the first year jitters, I reacted a lot out of emotion, kind of just kind of immediately reacted, where it's like, what could I have seen if I kind of stepped back a little bit and looked at this a little bit longer before I made a decision about something? So that was something I really try to practice with the daycare kids because I work with kids going into kindergarten, first grade. So, they are going to do a lot of things that they probably shouldn't, like hit their friends, take from them. So it was really easy to kind of just pause and kind of talk to them with a more level-headed than kind of like, oh my gosh, why are you doing that? Kind of where you're shocked by what just happened. Um, sorry, I kind of made notes on what I wanted to remember to say. A lot of it talked about too was like that relationship building. Um, and kind of a lot of it mentioned was there was a meaning, there was something going on in the background that maybe we don't know about that is causing these behaviors. And that was very eye-opening, I think, when reading about that. I teach in a Title I school, and a lot of the kids that I see deal with neglect, and maybe that's neglect of their parents aren't giving them attention until they're in trouble, or their parents are kind of like trying to buy their love. And so I had a lot of kids that their behaviors did 100% stem from they are wanting to feel loved, they are wanting that sense of belonging. And so that really, I think, switched my mindset immediately to like the challenges that I had last year and kind of that overwhelming that I felt, where now it's like, oh my goodness, I could have kind of stepped back a little bit with my reactions and kind of given them that grace that they really deserve because they're kind of just overwhelmed with everything that's going on. Um, the analysis of influence and outcomes, a lot of things that stood out to me was it talked about remembering kind of what you need when you're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, things like that, and how usually you kind of need a listening ear, maybe some alone time, maybe a hug, and that those are the same things that your students need when they are feeling those big emotions. So I mentioned like I want to focus a lot this year of really focusing on those relationships and that student well-being. Like, and I think a lot of reactions are, okay, the student is over or acting kind of out of control, just send them out of the classroom, but there's going to be no learning done if they're out of the classroom. So kind of making sure to focus on that student well-being and kind of taking a step aside and kind of seeing how that kid's doing, what do they need, kind of hear them out because there is a reason to why they are acting out, and it could be because maybe they're overwhelmed, maybe they don't feel like you're listening to them. And if we just take a moment to, okay, you guys can work independently, take a side, check on that kid, because in the end, if a student doesn't feel safe in our class, there's going to be no learning happening anyways. So that's something I really want to focus on. I think a lot of times I get overwhelmed, like, oh my goodness, there's so much content I have to hit, so little time. But like I said, if they're not safe, they're not going to learn that anyway. So there's no need to rush it if there's not that kind of ground level of relationship built beforehand. Um, and then for my reflection, I had mentioned that I really think this helped me a lot. My goal was kind of to understand better what the behaviors and the reasons those behaviors come about and kind of how to handle those big emotions that our students feel. Um, I'm hoping to kind of have that better and deeper understanding of it to maybe be able to apply all of these learning to be able to kind of help manage those behaviors moving forward. So I am feeling very empowered after this. I really enjoyed the book and I had highlighted it up. I actually got the book on Kindle originally, and then after reading it, I ended up buying the book and then transferring my highlights to that book because it just was very powerful, especially with, I think, as a sixth grade team with the challenging behaviors we felt. I think everybody's kind of down in the dumps and not very confident in this next year. So I've been sharing all these ideas and these things I learned in the book with kind of my team moving forward this year. Um, so I was very excited about that book and I'm very excited moving into this year. Like we've already had a couple of meetings about some students that kind of have kind of that warning sign on them where it's like challenging behavior. And that was another thing that stuck out to me that's like, don't label a kid bad because once they have that label, they're not going to break through that. And you're not going to, I think sometimes when you label a kid bad, now it's like you've got this sense of you don't want to, how do I want to say it? You don't give them as much a grace sometimes because you think there's always a meaning behind this. Like maybe it's kind of at you kind of dig thing because they're a bad student, when in reality, maybe they're just, it's a cry for help. I want your attention. I need your love. Um, so I really enjoyed that. So I think to move to my, sorry if I seem like I'm all over the place. I had a lot of things that I wanted to say and I felt like it all went over my head once I started. So here's my professional portfolio. Just have a little introduction about myself and kind of my career so far. Um, I didn't know exactly where I was supposed to put my stuff from my emphasis one, so I put it all kind of under here with the learning outcome one. So for these activity sections, I just relinked that evidence that I had on my contract and that explanation that I had on my contract. Down here in my artifacts, I kind of took that problem solving strategy that they had talked about in the book and kind of just implemented it in here into more like laid out area to where we can see it. This was something I really wanted to bring up to my team this year because usually we have a thing called team focus, and when there's challenging behaviors, the kid gets shut down. So they get taken off all their classes, and they kind of have to show that they understand the expectations in a classroom before slowly adding their classes back and getting their full schedule. And we had two boys last year that got on team focus, and one of them never made it back to his classroom. And he was in the mindset where he literally said, I'm never going to earn my classes back. He was like, he had earned half of them and he lost them. And he's like, if I'm not going to earn them back, what's the point of being good in class? And during this process, it's like we never really took the time to sit down with him and see like where, what could we do to help you? What do you need? Because in the end, the kid knows himself better than we do. He knows what he needs. He might not know how to express it, but eventually he like in the moment, he might be like, okay, this is what I need right now. And we can move forward with that. And I liked how in some of the examples that the book gave, they had a peer or like a friend, a part of that collaboration idea where they kind of helped come up with ideas of what they can do to fix these challenges. And so it talks about discovering the strengths first of the student, where we might be kind of falling short, what are we struggling with? And then this is kind of where that like peer stepped in and they kind of helped come up with ideas of how to help him succeed. So like um and an example they give, the kid hadn't gone on any field trips because he just couldn't handle them, is what they were saying. And so in this, they had discovered like he's very good at being like kind of like schedule oriented and understanding routes. But his challenges was once things kind of went off schedule, he's kind of don't know what to do because this isn't how it's supposed to be. So they came up with the idea of when they find out the field trip, he can map out all the like train routes because they're in New York. And then if like this train's down, what would be an alternate route? And then the same with kind of mapping out how they can move along through the museums. And then that's kind of like where you notify those success milestones. So I really like that. This artifact again is just like my final assessment, kind of what did I like that stood out to me. This was something that also I really liked. It talked about kind of flipping our mindset. Um, it talked about an example they gave was have kids brainstorm a time where they maybe failed, they didn't get something right. How did they think about themselves in that time? And then how would they have talked to their friend if that had happened to them? And usually it's like you're going to be harsh on yourself. You're going to talk kind of negative about yourself. But if your friend came to you with that situation, you're going to kind of extend them the grace that even you deserve that you didn't give yourself. And then Todd and talk about that flipping from harmful self-talk to kindness and encouraging self-talk. I always say, like, even to my kids in the classroom, my kids out on the track team, whether you say like you can or you can't, you're right. Because if my mindset, my professor when I was doing teaching said, like, if you go into the mindset of it's going to be a bad day, it's going to be hard, it's going to be because you've already kind of set that path for you moving forward. So I think this is really good, especially when we're in a era where I feel like kids are, this is too hard, I'm not smart enough. Like the second something's challenging, they kind of shut down. So flipping that mindset of it's really hard for me right now. I don't understand it right now because eventually I will. Um, my oh, digital footprint. I have my blog. Oh, just kidding. This is my portfolio from when I was taking my undergraduate through Mid-America. They had us kind of document all of our artifacts and learning. So that's kind of what that is. And then right here is my blog. It has the same kind of welcome. And then I put my philosophies over here, but then I also have those course reflections where I have the drop down bars for all of those blogs that we did. Um, Over here are my badges and certificate. I also only had that one badge from what we completed in that course. For my professional standards, I put the ISE technology standards. I try very hard to kind of incorporate technology. Sometimes it's hard because like the curriculum we get does have a lot of like paper-based assignments, but what I like about it is it does have some like simulations that the kids can do. So when we were in our thermal energy unit, it had where they could add like heat and cold to kind of see how that changes the substance of something. So I really like it anytime we can incorporate technology. I always think like we're in a technology-based world. We can either try to adapt to it or run from it. And I think adapting to it is the easier situation, even though it might take some time to understand how to work things, like me trying to share my screen. For my networks, I did the Facebook educator group when I was student teaching. Uh, they had just got a new reading curriculum. So it was very challenging trying to take over teaching a curriculum that even my mentor teacher really couldn't give much guidance on. And so we had found these like Facebook educator groups where it was kind of like other teachers in the district. They were kind of sharing their findings, like this is what I found out what worked. So it's kind of like collaborating not only with my cooperating teacher and our other like fellow team member, but now like as a whole district to kind of figure out this curriculum. Oh, that's not what I meant to click. My resources, if I can click on it. Okay, I split it up into two groups, the classroom resources and like more outside the classroom resources. So these are kind of things that I use for the classroom. Like this one, I tend to share, I think, shared this with like four other colleagues at my school. We always have to do nows at the beginning of every class. And what I like about this, it's a free, um, like kind of like news article, I guess you can say, where you just put in your email and you get an email every day with the first five, and they come up with like memes. But I like to use the questions as our do now. And sometimes they're silly, sometimes they like relate. Like we had a weather question that was fun because it was right at the same time we were teaching our weather unit. It's got quotes, it's got videos. I just think it's fun and it always gives like good, oops, resources. I also added stories with holes. I love using these like at the end when we're kind of just sitting waiting for the bell to ring. it gives you a story and then you kind of have to like think outside the box to figure out what the missing pieces are. Ed puzzles are another thing I use a lot. They you can assign a video for them to watch. So like I usually do these as kind of intro things. So when I had to teach a speech class last year and we had to do like we were about to give speeches and so we wanted them to learn about audience etiquette. But the fun thing about it is it like shows you the video and then it stops kind of partially through or throughout it and they have to answer like a question to go on to the next one. So you kind of see like how they're understanding it as you go along. And then over here for classroom resources, I just have that like Facebook educators group, the standards that every kid needs a champion by Rita Pearson. I watch this video, I feel like in every education class I take, and I think it's so good every single time. I remember last year I was grading a kid's paper and I like put the plus on however many numbers they had, and I wasn't really even realizing I was doing it. And then my coworker, who was also a first year teacher, he's like, "Why are you doing that?" And I was like, I don't know. And then my sister's like, we want to watch a video when we were in Mid-America for this. And I was like, oh, yes, that is why I'm doing it. And so it was just funny that's like, I feel like you learn some things in these videos and you don't even like realize it. I also linked this McFarland USA movie that we had to watch. I just feel like watching those movies, I feel like I related to them a lot because I was like, oh my goodness, like those kids, like that kind of area that they're in, those are my kids. Like in the what was it? Take the lead video. Their kids are walking through metal detectors, and I'm like, my kids walk through metal detectors, so I felt like I could really connect to the like demographic and kind of the challenges that they have in their class. Obviously, like not to such an extent, but my kids see the same challenges that those kids had. So that was, I think, very powerful like, watching that. And then I love this book, so I added that there too. But I think that's everything that I have. Hopefully, I didn't miss anything, and hopefully, I wasn't scatterbrained.
Oh, that was great. Any comments from the colleagues? Carly?
Yeah, fantastic job. Again, I'm so impressed. All of you did amazing. I was going to ask you, and sorry, you may have already mentioned something about this. All three of my dogs got the zoomies when you were talking. So, um, so the part I love how you like wrote out the success plan. Obviously, that was a big part of mine too. And I was just wondering, have you already kind of shared that with colleagues? And if so, how did they react? Or how do you think that would be perceived or, that kind of thing at your school?
I have not. I've kind of touched base with them that I've learned a lot of things in this class I want to share. We're actually having a team meeting tomorrow where I kind of want to share this stuff. I think the fun part is because I think as like only a second year teacher, it's like nerve-wracking like sharing these ideas because I'm so new. But what's nice is that there's other like fellow first year teachers and my sister is also on our team. She's actually our team lead and she's very like I've been sharing a lot of these things that I have and she's like, I think those are awesome. I think that'll be great to incorporate. So I'm hoping they take it well. We also have a lot of new staff, so I think we have a lot of open-mindedness kind of in our team, which I think is very reassuring to be able to kind of present this because team focus, what I talked about, that is kind of like the school or the district's kind of policy, but it's like, could we do this as ours? Because, it's nothing crazy. It's just meeting with the student instead of meeting as the teachers without the student. So I'm hoping there's a lot of open-mindedness to it and hoping sharing goes well. And I can keep you posted if you want to know how it
That's
went.
great.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
yes.
great.
Love the networking, all of you with your networks and things. I hope you found sounds like you found some great people to connect with and to share ideas, and that's awesome. Someone mentioned, or all of you may have mentioned something about the outcomes, and just keep in mind with each emphasis course, there may be some outcomes that you don't hit. You may hit one, you may hit three of them, and you'll just address that each time. That's why we chose to divide it by the outcomes because you can, those are going to cross-reference many times. So feel free, there's no right or wrong answer on that. It's just what you feel that addresses as part of your learning. So feel free to use one, feel free to apply to them all, whatever you feel it addresses. The the cool thing that's going to happen now, I know you started this program in the summer, but the cool thing I think that's going to happen now, and I even noticed that more as you guys were presenting, is that you're going to be in the trenches now, so to speak, and maybe even have a chance to apply some of these things that you've been learning. And I think that'll make your evidence a lot easier because you'll have some things that you've actually maybe tried or considered. And certainly, I always thought that you learned more teaching others than you could learn from reading or doing anything else. And so I was one of those weird kids that would line up my stuffed animals. And if I had a test and I would like teach them the test, I would teach them the material, I should say. I shouldn't say teach the test. That's bad now. But teach the material. And, I'm sure my mom was ready to commit me, but it really did help me absorb the information. So I think as you're presenting some of these things to your colleagues at your positions or even to your students, I think they're going to become much more real to you. And I think it's going to make, sharing that evidence a lot easier. So that's really good. I am going to share with you when I saw that first five, Kayla, that you brought up. I have a friend used to work at Brain. Well, she used to teach in the Blue Valley District. Then she went to work for Brain Pop, and then she worked for another company, and now she has a podcast that's called The First Five, and it's about children under the age of 5, and she's really excited about it. So I may share that link with you. I'll try to find her link. And then, have any of you seen the, but I didn't have a pencil, that poem? Okay. Gloria says, yes, I may share that with you as well. One of my former principals, sent that. I always have my teacher friends always send out things at the first of the year, like some of them send out like death notices, like their summer's over, but some of them actually send out valuable things. And so one of my former principals sent that out, and it reminds me every year, uh, about how we deal with kids. And Carly, when you and Kayla were giving your presentations, that really came to mind, that pencil poem and the whole meaning behind it. So, thank you, all of you, for sharing tonight. Thank you for all of your expertise. Thank you for all of your hard work. Um, I hope that kind of participating in everybody's presentations maybe gave you some ideas for how you can proceed the next time, because really now you've done the contract, right? So now when you do a contract in each of their emphasis courses, you'll kind of go back and you hopefully it will be a little easier. You'll kind of know what you want to, how you want to shape it. And then of course your portfolios, you're adding to those, and they look awesome already. I can't even imagine what they're going to look like when you guys finish this program, um, and have that to look back on. And I will emphasize again those resources. I love the way some of you divided them and some of the things that you guys have included, because trust me, that is a valuable, valuable page. As you move on, you may think, oh, I want to share this with those colleagues, and you've got it on that resource page. You don't have to go back and look for it. So keep adding to those resources, just keep adding and adding. You come across something really interesting, add it to your resources page right then so you don't forget, or I usually keep a list on a piece of paper, and then just once every few weeks or something, I'll go in and add them, if I have some new references. So, you're not going back and forth all the time, save some time. So anyway, good job. Thank you for your time this evening. I'll, like I said, I'll send out these rubrics, and I've written some comments. If you don't understand something I let me know. I usually make little notes to myself as I'm watching. So you might go, what did she mean by that? And if you have any questions, just let me know. But I'll get grades submitted as soon as possible, so you'll have that reflected in your information. And like I said, the shell for E2 will be out next Sunday. Please let me know after you look at that list for your E2 courses if anything looks funky or doesn't make sense, or if I had the wrong course down or you've changed something and I didn't catch it. Let me know so I can let them know right away. But I hope you've had a good time so far. You're doing great. You guys are surpassing my expectations. So that's awesome. So thank you again. Have a great week. Have a great start. I hope everything goes smoothly, and I'll look forward to the next time we meet. You guys can share stories.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks so
Have a
much,
good
y'all.
one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.